Good evening, Bears and Bearettes. It's 9:30 on Sunday evening, so therefore it is time for another episode of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast with myself, Colin Armstrong, hosting tonight. It's episode 40 of the Gersnet Podcast. We've turned 40. We're now middle-aged, and we've also, last year was our first birthday, so a couple of milestones for the podcast this week. I would encourage you to contribute via the comment section on YouTube. It is an interactive show, so if you've got anything you want to say during the podcast, let us know and we'll try and read it out. We would also encourage you to subscribe to the podcast if possible and share it on all your social medias. The podcast is live tonight, as I've said, but it will also be available to stream and download after the broadcast tonight. So if anyone's out there's missed it, they can pick up later in the week on Acast, iTunes, Stitcher and Castbox, and YouTube as well, obviously. Joining me tonight, we've got the gaffer on, Stuart's in. How are you, Stuart?
Very well, Colin, thanks. Just had a nice afternoon watching the golf there, so relaxed and ready to start talking about Rangers again after a week away,
a week off. Yeah, a week off. Did you enjoy the golf, Tiger winning?
I did indeed. For all the indiscretions over the years, I was kind of hoping he would do it today. I like the Italian guy, but he obviously folded on the back nine. So after that, I was cheering on for Tiger. So I was pretty pleased when he did it.
Well, I didn't watch it myself. I had a bit of a heavy night last night. I was at a tribute dinner for the Rangers team for 1972 that won the Cup Winners' Cup. We were talking about it before we came on air, obviously. So I just had a sort of relaxing Sunday myself. I went out for a wee walk and then watched a wee bit of the Liverpool-Chelsea game. So I'm also suitably relaxed and ready to talk about Rangers after a week of not having any Rangers. Also joining us tonight is Christine Somerville. How are you, Christine?
I'm good, thanks, Colin.
You had a good weekend?
Quite quiet. I've been doing a wee bit of work, but on the whole, just relaxed and sort of missing the Rangers and glad to be back on the podcast again.
It's always a bit what's the word? It's a bit shite, isn't it, when there's no Rangers at the weekend, you're just sort of twiddling your thumbs a wee bit. Although, as I said, I got a wee bit last night, got my photo with the Cup Winners' Cup and all the rest of it. Got to meet 9 of the players from that night. Willie Matheson couldn't make it last night. I think he's on holiday. And obviously Sandy Jardin's no longer with us anymore. So, I got to meet 9 of 11. So it was a good night. There was lots of stuff going on and it was good fun. And I got my jersey signed as well. I've got a replica of the 72 jersey. So that's signed now and up the stair in the boys' room. So, yeah, good stuff. So that sort of replaced my Rangers fix for the weekend. So, quite enjoyable. Anyway, talking points for tonight. Obviously, no game to talk about, so I thought we would look at some of the stuff that's come out this week in the papers and stuff like that, and also it's something we've been looking about doing for a while. We were going to do a sort of personal memories from, our own Rangers personal memories, so first game attended, cup final, all that kind of thing. So we'll come on to that later in the show, but first I thought we would look at sort of some of the stuff in the paper this week. I'll come at you first, Stuart. There's been a few talks this week in terms of the papers around players that we're being linked with. The main one this week has been John Souttar at Hearts. I have to be honest, I've not really seen enough of the boy to comment. What's your views on this one?
I know the Jambos highly rate him, and he was very highly rated at Dundee before that. So he's definitely done well. I think he's been capped for the international team now as well, hasn't he? Or he's certainly been included in a squad or two. So he's certainly got a good pedigree. Probably still a bit raw. It's interesting because he's more a sort of ball playing centre half, right-sided. Just signed a new contract for Hearts, a 3-year extension in January there. So I'd imagine they'll be wanting serious money for him. I don't know, 2 or 3 million, which is quite a lot for a guy that's still got a bit of developing to do. I mean, on the other hand, you've got somebody like Scott McKenna. I mean, clearly Aberdeen are looking for sort of 5 million mark, which I doubt they're going to get, to be honest. The good thing for McKenna is he's left-footed as opposed to Souttar, who's more sort of right-sided, and obviously McKenna's more physical, probably a bit more suited to the Scottish game than dealing with the sort of aerial threat of teams and the physical side of it. So I think it would be more a surprise if we weren't interested in these players. the problem you've got, as usual, is dealing with Scottish teams can sometimes be problematic, especially when they're the sort of the cream of the crop, if you like, and obviously McKenna's sort of cemented his place as a sort of first choice Scotland centre half. So I don't know if you want to pay serious money for these guys. At the same time, I mean, you're not going to be able to afford the guys in England. So do you look further afar to Croatia? We've got Katic last year, who's again he's done well, but he's still quite raw himself. So it's debatable. I'm not very sure on myself. I think I do like the look of him, but as always, I guess it just comes down to what we're willing to pay.
Christine, do you know enough about this guy in terms of if to form an opinion? As I said, Frankie seems quite informed there. I've genuinely, because I don't watch sports scene that often, the only time I would see this boy is when he turns up at Ibrox, to play for Hearts. I don't remember him standing out any time I've watched Hearts this season, but I could be wrong. Have you got any views on him as a player?
I don't have really, Colin, because I tend to I don't watch sports scene at all now. I only watch Rangers, and when I say I watch Rangers, that includes the Rangers players. So I'm kind of one of these people. If somebody is having a really good game against us,
you don't notice
I don't
it?
actually notice them.
I'm a bit like that.
I'm more interested in what our players are doing to notice. Obviously, if somebody was, maybe scoring a hat-trick against us or something like that, not that would ever happen, but, I would maybe notice them, but I don't generally look at players from other teams, unfortunately.
I'm probably guilty of thinking, if somebody was playing well for the opposition, I would think the person in our team that's playing against that person was having a poor game.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, oh, boy, that boy Suter looks quite good, I'd be saying, what's going on? How is Kent cutting him out? Or, I'm a bit like that. I'm quite, internal when I watch the games. I tend to focus more on Rangers than anyone else. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. I've also been linked to Greg Stewart again. Now, I do have an opinion of him. I thought anytime I seen him with Kilmarnock, especially, I thought he looked a decent player. Would you like to see him coming to Ibrox, Christine?
Not sure. Again, I haven't really seen enough of him to comment on that. But we need to be very careful here. We can't just keep bringing in players. Players have to go out the other way. And, do we need more midfielders? I don't know.
I know I saw an interview before we came on air tonight. I watched the interview with Stevie G, and he was commenting on the squad, and he said, basically the sort of, roughly paraphrasing here, he was sort of saying that of the group, some have joined in what he's trying to do, and they're coming along for the journey. He says, but some others, it seems like the Rangers, the expectation at a club like Rangers are too much for them, and they'll need to be moved on. Now, obviously, he didn't name names, but it seems to me he's recognised people within that dressing room that he's thinking, nah, this is too big an ask of you. You'll need to move on. So I think in the point you made there about players going out, I think players will be leaving in the summer. Obviously, I think that Morelos will go, no, because of a lack of ability. I think it will be more, it's time for him to move on, and we can recoup some of the transfer fee from that. But I think there will be some players leaving this summer that Steven Gerrard thinks, not, sorry, you can't cut it. I think we've all got a rough idea who some of those players would be. So I think some would go. The one thing I would say about Greg Stewart is I think Kilmarnock tailed off badly when he moved on in January there. So I think he could maybe do a job for Rangers, I must admit. What about you, Stuart? Have you got any views on Greg Stewart?
I think he's a good player, and I think we'll find out soon enough, because I believe that he's signed already. I think it's going to be confirmed actually this week, but he'll be a Rangers player next season as far as I know. So I like him. I think he's exactly the player we need. He plays in holes, he's tricky, he's got a lot of guile about him. I don't think it's worked out for him as much at Aberdeen again as what it did at Kilmarnock. I think he's best just off another striker, rather than sort of being playing wide. And I think we've been asking for a sort of number 10, and I think that's the kind of role he'll be ideal for, Greg Stewart. And he's not a world beater, obviously, but he's got a lot of skill. I mean, he scored a cracker against us for Kilmarnock earlier in the season at Ibrox, so I am kind of looking forward to him in a Rangers jersey if indeed he does sign for us. In terms of guys leaving, I mean, it might well be the case that Morelos goes. I think, from what I'm hearing, James Tavernier might be the first out the door. I think apparently there's been a multi-million bid in for him from a English Premiership team. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in a few weeks' time when the season finishes and everything settles. But there's definitely a lot of players that are going to be on their way out. Guys like Jason Holt, Joe Dodu, all these guys that are coming back for loan deals. You've got Jordan Rossiter, Greg Docherty. How many of these guys do you keep, or do you cut your losses? As I say, we definitely need to slim the squad down and just ensure that the guys that we do buy and bring in, that we're not got as much of a squad turnover as we did have last summer, and try and add a bit more quality to what we have already, hopefully.
Are you revealing exclusively live on the Gersnet podcast that Greg Stewart's signing for Rangers this week?
I think he's already signed. I don't know when they will reveal him. Possibly this week, I'd heard, but my information is that he's signed for Rangers for next season.
It's a done deal. There you go. You're in the know, it would appear, Frankie. There's also been a story about the Ryan Kent situation. Now, obviously, there's been a price quoted for Liverpool. I think it's around £12 million, which would be way above what Rangers could afford these days. So there was a story earlier on in the week suggesting that Steven Gerrard was going to make a personal visit to Liverpool to have a meeting with Jurgen Klopp with a view to extending his loan deal for one more year. Now, how do you feel about that, Christian? I mean, one, is it possible? I mean, surely if Liverpool can rake in 12 million, they'll just tell Stevie G, you're all right, thanks very much, we'll take the money.
I personally don't think they'll ever get anything like 12 million for him. I mean, I think he's a good player. I like him, but sometimes he kind of flatters to deceive. You know, when he's on his game, he's really good, but I don't know if he's consistent enough to warrant that kind of fee. If we could get him on loan for another year, fair enough. But you know, I think we've possibly got other options. You know, Jordan Jones can play that kind of role, and I know that people aren't all that impressed with Jordan Jones, but do you know something? I wasn't impressed with the Kamara signing, and yet I think he's been a revelation. So you can't always tell how other players are playing, because they're not in such a good team. So if some of these players with better players around them can, you know, give us a performance, then why not? And I would rather have our players than loan players, to be honest.
That's a valid point, actually. I would take that. I mean, I've found that with the centre half situation, I've sort of queried as to why, you know, Katic was sort of taken out the side and put in with Worrell. Now, Worrell, he's done okay, you know, but I'm with you in that front. I'm thinking, well, why not just put our player in there and make sure that he's, you know, getting game time and all the rest of it, rather than developing a player for another club. You know, if Worrell goes back after this season, you know, he's got X amount of games under his belt at our expense, but we don't gain the benefit of that. Nottingham Forest do. So I get that point. However, I think Kent is fairly. I get what you say. He can flatter to deceive at times. You know, I think that comes with wingers. I think they tend to be inconsistent, but when he's on his game, I mean, I thought, you know, his performance at Celtic Park a couple of weeks ago was outstanding. Took his goal really, really well. Caused them problems all game. You know, probably our best player on the day. I think if we could get, you know, if he can play at that sort of level 70% of the time he gets onto the park, then we're getting a good player for another season. How do you feel about Kent, Frankie? Do you think it's worthwhile extending it by another season?
I think it'd be ideal if we could get him on loan for another year, to be honest, because I'm of the same opinion as you guys. I think he's a very good player. He's inconsistent. He's still young. That's fine. I think that's to be expected. So I definitely wouldn't want to be spending upwards of £5 million on him at this stage. It might well be the following year. I think that's when he's possibly out of contract. Then there might be a deal to be done in that sense. If he's proven himself over another season, then you might think it's worth spending big money on. But again, I think what Christine said a few minutes ago, that if Liverpool get a good offer in the summer, and the likes of 10 million pocket change for a lot of English teams, especially higher championship sides, a lot of teams will have their eye on him. And if Liverpool are not that hard to deal with, and I doubt they will be, because let's face it, he's not Liverpool quality at this stage in his career. So I don't think Liverpool are going to do us any favours. They're not interested in themselves, and the guy will go on a permanent transfer somewhere. We've got plenty of options though. If we can't get him again, Christine mentioned Jordan Jones. I think he's actually done quite well any time I've watched him. I'd hope he would improve alongside better players. We've got Greg Stewart, if indeed he signs. Then if we can get Jamie Murphy back fit again. And obviously we've got Eros Grezda as well if he stays beyond the summer. So there's certainly plenty of options in that kind of position. So it's just a case of the manager making sure that the system works and that these players fit into the right system, and they're complemented by 3 or 4 really top quality players. And to be honest, I don't, as much as Kent's been probably one of our key players, certainly since the turn of the year, I don't think at this stage is a real standout enough that I'd want to spend what would be an awful lot of money on him, to be honest.
Ronald de Boer was in the paper this week, Frankie. Obviously Ajax are having a really, really good season this season. They're in the sort of quarterfinals of the Champions League. Surprised everybody. And he was sort of saying that Rangers, maybe sort of agreement with Christie was saying earlier on, rather than going down the road of loan players and all the rest of it and buying in players, that we should revert to youth and, start producing young players and bringing them through and getting them in the team early. And citing Ajax as an example, because that's what they've done, and they got to a UEFA Cup final or a Europa League final as it is these days. I think 2 or 3 years ago against Man United. They're obviously in the quarterfinals of the Champions League this year, and they're sort of taking everybody by surprise at the sort of level of their performances. I can hear where Ronald de Boer is coming on this, but my biggest fear, the case I always go back to is Danny Wilson. When Danny Wilson first came into that team, I thought he was an absolute revelation. 17 or 18-year-old at the time. How many games did he get? Maybe 20 games, 30 games. And Liverpool came in and went, thank you, we'll take him. So if you have X amount of players in your team, if you're going down the road of youth development, you're putting loads of young players in your team, are you not putting yourself in a position where if they do hit the ground running, your team's going to get dismantled at the end of the season?
I think that's the case. It's definitely the risk with doing it. Ajax are a big team, very successful European side, very impressive the way their system works. But if you speak to Pete of this parish about Dutch football, he's based in Germany, but he's lived in Holland a lot of his life, and so follows Dutch football quite closely. He says that the Ajax Academy hasn't been performing quite as well as a lot of people claim, in actual fact. So it's definitely a risk to go down that route. You mentioned Danny Wilson. I think, did you not get about £4 million for him? So it can be lucrative if you've got enough players that you can bring through that are doing well, that you can sell, but enough players that are doing well enough that you can actually keep. Billy Gilmour's probably a more recent example, obviously really highly rated in our youth system, and then moved down to Chelsea. And what did we get? £300,000, something like that?
So just the development fee we got.
That's right. So the development fee is only a huge amount of money, unfortunately. So especially if they pick them up early like that, and again, we mentioned it a little bit, Ryan Kent. English teams, Chelsea especially, how big a squad have these guys got? 70, 80 players? So, and they've got feeder teams that they can loan them out to for 2 or 3 years, and so it's this is what you're competing against. And I mean, a lot of credit to Ajax, they seem able to do it and do it quite consistently, and it would be great to follow that model. I mean, arguably for Scottish teams, it's the only model you can do is buy players low and sell them high, and whether that's younger players or whether it's your boom songs of this world, that's probably the only option we've got, because it's that difficult for us and even for Celtic to qualify for the group stages of the Champions League. So financially, it's the only route that you can really go. But in terms of Rangers, I mean, the pressure on players is incredibly high. I mean, fans expect to win every single game. The pressure's even higher now with Celtic just about to complete 8 in a row. We don't want to try and stop them over the next 2 years breaking the record. So it's possibly not the right time. If we were going to do that, we should have done it 5 years ago when
that probably would have been a good time to do it.
And obviously, Alan McCoy didn't have the bottle or the self belief in his own skills in doing that. Instead, we wasted time with guys like Kevin Kyle and Ian Black. So I don't know. It's a difficult question. It's easy for us to pontificate here and say do this, do that, and do the other. We have to win games, and the only way to do that is to sign players, really, and you can't afford to wait on young players' inconsistencies and rawness at times. I mean, Glenn Middleton's quite a good example. I mean, he did very well earlier in the season, and then he sort of fell out the picture a wee bit because when he was coming onto the pitch, he was sort of struggling. So it's a tricky question. It was in an ideal world, yes, but at Rangers, I don't think it really works.
It's an interesting point that Stuart makes there, Christine. And I think Glenn Middleton's a sort of good example of it. Stuart sort of said there at the start of the season, he was getting past his men, sending in great crosses. And he's sort of, I think it comes down to what we were talking about earlier on, the jersey being too heavy for some people. And I always think, especially young players, when they come into the side, they get a certain amount of leeway for X amount of games, where fans don't get on their back and all the rest of it. But maybe after 10, 15 games, that's it. They're considered part of the fabric and they're fair game. On a cold November night, when we're drawing nothing each against St Johnstone with 10 minutes to go, and you send in a duff cross, and 50,000 folk start groaning and moaning and all the rest of it. I think it takes a certain type of player to deal with that. And if you're bringing loads of young players in, as Ronald de Boer is suggesting, is there actually a possibility you could ruin some of these boys' careers because you're putting them in too early?
I think you've just completely said it all there, Colin, to be perfectly honest. Just exactly what I think. I mean, our fans can be absolutely fantastic, the best in the world. But sometimes they can be the worst, though, if things aren't going our way. And I'm saying that in the nicest possible way, but we do tend to get on the players' backs very, very easily. And as you say, it must be very disheartening if you're a player, to face that. And it makes them reluctant to, they just want rid of the ball because they don't want the crowd on their backs. And, bringing young players into that kind of atmosphere, there have to be a certain kind of personality, to be able to
deal
shrug
with
that off.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as I said, I think Middleton's a good example of it, because as Rangers' season started to sort of deteriorate a wee bit, that's when he tailed off. I think, when the questions were really being asked, when you're being sort of expected to get results and all the rest of it. I think the European run this year was great. It was great to see us back in that arena. But it's a bit of a free hit. Once you're in the group stages, we've probably got further than we expected to get this season. So there's no real pressure on the players. So they're playing at a very, very decent level of football, but without any real pressure on them. So they'll express themselves, and I think they feel a bit freer to go out and do that. When it comes to your league games and the sort of bread and butter stuff, and as I said, with 10 minutes to go and you're drawing nothing each, and that's when you see players starting to go the other way and play within themselves. And I do think I think Rangers fans can be not the worst, but we're not the best at times when things are going against us. We can get a bit moany and all the rest of it and turn on the players a wee bit. And I think if we overloaded, the side with young players, you're in danger of, destroying them a wee bit, taking a lot out their development, and then consequently you're not going to be able to sell them on, because people are only going to come in and buy them. So I'm not convinced. I know where Ronald de Boer's coming with this, but I have to say I'm not convinced that it's the right road for Rangers. So I think it's maybe what Frankie was talking about earlier on, buying low and selling high, so to speak, wherever you're getting them from, whether it be Scottish, from further afield. If you're doing that and you're getting more successes and you're getting failures, then you get the benefit of the player on the pitch, and then you rake in the rewards when you sell them on. I think that's maybe a more suitable model for Rangers. Stuart, coming back to the Hibs thing from a few weeks ago, the Tavernier issue, the supporter that came on the park and, in inverted commas, confronted him. He was jailed for 100 days this week. That was one of the things. Now, I can remember at the time of the incident, me being really angry, and it sort of happened at the same time as that Villa fan, the Villa player, was attacked by the Birmingham fan, and that boy got to jail as well. However, when I read the story this week, now don't get me wrong, I'm not judging, I'm not condoning what the boy done. He should never have been on the park. However, the boy had no previous, and he's got 100 days in the jail for, doing something stupid, but I don't think he done anything that was particularly life-threatening or anything like that. It felt a bit harsh to me. How did you view it?
I think it's a deterrent, Colin. I think it's as simple as that. There's been a lot of media attention based on supporter behaviour in recent months. Obviously, there's been a lot of stuff thrown for stands, and we've had Tav now had stuff thrown at him, and obviously this guy had a go at him a couple of months back now as well. So I think that the Scottish judicial system had to be seen to be doing something, and I think this guy probably drew the short straw, unfortunately. I don't. First and foremost, I don't think we want to see young lads with young families in jail. I think it's an overreaction. But at the same time, we're all responsible for our own behaviour, and the guy's old enough to know better. I mean, I've been to countless football matches, and I've never thought once about running onto the pitch. As much as I'm frustrated about Rangers players playing crap, opposition players causing bother, Neil Lennon spatting a Rangers scarf about 10 yards in front of me, again in 2004. And I've never thought I'm going to run onto the pitch and, in inverted commas, confront that player. So the mindset I don't understand, but clearly there's that element within every support. So I mean, our supporters aren't perfect in that sense either. So it's that point of view that makes me think I don't want to see people jailed for it. But at the same time, if we want to stop this stuff going on, then eventually you have to say enough's enough. And as I say, I think unfortunately this lad, he took a risk and he's got to pay for it with some jail time. I doubt he'll spend 100 days. I think he'll probably be lucky if he does 30, but I doubt he'll, whether he attends another game or not, I doubt he'll do it again. So I guess we'll find out if it works in that sense. But just now, I think it's the only option the judge probably had.
Christine, I get what Stuart's saying there, a couple of things.
I tend to disagree with Stuart to a certain extent. I think what the guy did was really stupid. But if somebody did that to another person out in the street,
yeah,
would they get the jail for it? I don't think they would. And I feel a bit sorry for the guy, although he was stupid. I don't know whether he was drunk or drugged out his head. I really don't know. But 100 days in jail, I think that's pretty steep. I think a good fine would have been quite sufficient in this instance.
And surely, I mean, I understand what Stuart's saying there, that the judges are looking for a deterrent because it's been in the spotlight recently, and I get that. There has been some incidents this year that we obviously don't want to see repeated. But surely, stuff like the pyro stuff, firecrackers, getting thrown in. I'm sure Stuart said previously it was at an Old Firm game, and when Celtic scored a goal, the firecracker came into the home end and went off and all the rest of it. Surely that's endangering, or more endangering than somebody coming on the park. And, you know, and I know he raised his hands and all the rest of it, but I just felt there must be better examples out there that they could have made an example of rather than this boy, especially when you consider he doesn't have any previous record at all. And I genuinely think it's, for all football fans, it's a bit of a worrying road that we're at the start of here. You know, if this is how it's going to be, I think it's a concern, if I'm being honest.
I mean, to be fair, if it stops anybody else from running onto the field and doing the same thing, then fair enough. The guy's just obviously been a bit unlucky. But I don't know. As you say, the pyro stuff, they don't really seem to be able to pick out, you know, who's causing that. They'll know the area that it's coming from, but that to me is much worse.
I think
what the
that
guy
sort of
did. As
behaviour
you
is worse.
say,
Yeah.
it's potentially life-threatening. I don't know. That's maybe been a wee bit too
Over dramatic.
Yeah. Thanks for pulling me out of spot there, Colin. But you know, I just think, why can't we all just sing and be happy and, you know, sing our songs and that's it, without all this, you know, additional nonsense?
I think as well, there's something that isn't getting brought into this debate, and it's how many times these occasions are happening involving Rangers. And I don't mean, you know, in terms of our supporters being involved. I mean, our players being at the, you know, Tavernier's been involved twice now in the space of 3 or 4 weeks. You know, we've had incidents in the past with Lee McCulloch, you know, also at the Motherwell game. Got a flagpole shoved in his eye and all the rest of it. The fact that that's been ignored worries me a wee bit, because to me there seems to be a link. You know, whenever Rangers are in town, there seems to be this feeling that, you know, we're fair game.
Do you know, Colin, I think you need to look back as well at the cup final against Hibs, when all these Hibs fans were allowed on to the playing surface and came right up to the Rangers end, and not a thing, no sanctions, nothing.
Well, I would argue that some of the boys that came on the park that day, I mean, obviously Lee Wallace was on the receiving end of it, a few others were as well. I would argue that some of the things that happened that day were far worse than what happened with the Tavernier incident, but I don't recall there being any jail time dished out at that particular point.
No.
I get the point that Stuart was saying earlier on, was, you know, because these incidents have been reoccurring and they're sort of in the spotlight, that someday had to be made an example of. I get that. I'm just a wee bit concerned that it was a guy who had no previous convictions. You know, he's not done anything wrong previously in life, and he's made a mistake, and it's been a costly one, but I don't think it needed to be as costly as it was.
No, I agree. But if it stops all this talk about strict liability, then maybe I'm in favour.
Well, we'll see how that goes. Right, we'll wrap this wee section up now. Final thing that I've taken out of this week. Stuart, did you see the video posted on social media of various squad members on the drink at the Player of the Year do?
I caught that yesterday when I came back for holiday. I couldn't stop laughing. It was hilarious. It really was. I believe there's a few, the green and grey, offended by it, but these guys won't go out very often and get in a state like that. It's probably because they didn't drink very often that they ended up absolutely steaming. But it's I've no problem with it. It's not as if we had a game the following day. In fact, we had a 2-week break, so it was good to see the players out and enjoying themselves.
Is there not? I get that. I mean, in terms of the content of the video, nothing really bothered me. It was just young guys out, as you say, having a good time at the end of a sort of Player of the Year, something I'm sure that their manager has given them the go-ahead to have a good time at. I was slightly concerned that, you know, a youth player found it appropriate to film it and then post it on social media. I always feel these things should sort of remain in-house, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I'd agree with that. Definitely. I think the lad probably shouldn't have done it. and I'd imagine he probably got the hairdryer treatment for Gerrard the following day when he found out about it. It's nowadays it's not a done thing to video people. It's certainly not without their permission. I know when they're steaming. So, but it's happened, so there's no point in trying to gloss over it. I mean, as long as they're not doing anything silly or offensive, then I didn't have a big problem. I mean, I like a drink myself, so if then again, I'm not get that perfectly, so I'm not going to sit here and say they shouldn't be doing that, this, the other. They didn't harm anybody. They were out enjoying themselves, so yeah, but just leave it at that, I think.
Right, we'll move on to the Rangers memories then. That's us, we've covered the week. So we sort of suggested a wee while ago on the forums that this would be something worth looking at, going through everyone who contributes to the podcast and asking them a few sort of standard questions about the Rangers memories. So we've got a few questions tonight. So I'll come to you first, Christine. Your first Rangers game, what was the first game you ever attended?
Well, Colin, see if you'd asked me this about 5 years ago, I would have said it was around 1972 and it was Rangers Hearts and we won 2-0. I would have said that to you. And then once these things started coming out, like all the results going way, way back, it turns out, and I actually, my sister looked at the programme from that game, and it was actually February the 6th, 1971. And Rangers won 1-0, courtesy of Willie Henderson.
There you go.
Now, what amazes me is, one, that my mum and dad let me go, because you think about it, that was only about a month after the disaster.
Yeah. Aye.
And
did you go yourself?
No, my dad took us. I think there was quite a few of us. I think there was a neighbour, Jim Alexander, as well, and his kids. And we went to the main stands because my dad stopped going. He took the huff for Rangers when they sold Jim Baxter.
All right.
And he stopped going. And having two daughters, I'm sure he thought that he would never be, dragging his daughters along to football. But I think we kept saying, oh, please, because both Elaine and I really enjoyed football. So I think he waited till Elaine was a bit older. There's 4 years between us. So I think I was about, let me think, 71? I would have been about 14, so Elaine would have been about 10. So that was what took us along to start off with. But there you go, February the 6th, 1971.
I wasn't even born, Christine. I don't want to make you feel old there, but I wasn't even born. What about yourself, Frankie? Where were you? What was your first game?
I wasn't born then either, Christine.
Oh,
sorry. No, my first game was Rangers 2, Hamilton 0 on the 17th of January, 1987.
Is this the game that Roberts and Ian Durant got sent off?
That's exactly that game.
I remember that game.
And when we talk about coin throwing, there's a good video on YouTube.
Yeah, they introduced a tunnel after that.
That's right.
Long tunnel. Yeah,
that's right. It was Andrew Waddle was a referee, and I think the only thing I never seen thrown at him was a coconut. So really got the treatment. So that was my first game. That was 2 weeks before they beat us in the Scottish Cup. So right. I'm glad they went to that game rather than the Scottish Cup game.
One. Yeah.
So I just turned 10, so I think it was probably for my 10th birthday. I went to a couple of Scotland games, but first before I went to Ibrox, I think. Anyway, so it's that's the first game I can remember going to. So enough, or coincidentally enough, I went for a job interview when I was 16, so about 6 years after that, just at a research company, and Andrew Waddle was the man that was doing the interview.
All right.
I can't remember if I mentioned I was a Rangers fan or not, but I got offered the job, but I didn't take it. So,
see, I've heard. I don't know how true they are, mind you. A lot of these things could be a lot of nonsense, but I've heard some pretty bad stories about Andrew Waddle and his views on Rangers.
It wouldn't surprise me, but as I say, I've only met him the once, and he was perfectly polite at that time. I don't think he returned a handshake, but
well, he's not staunch enough then, is he, really?
clearly not.
No. I mean, my first game, I've tried to nail it down. It's either 1981 or 1982. It was against Morton, and Rangers won 3-1. And when I look back at, you know, the previous fixtures and all the rest of it, there's two games and the two home games in different seasons finished 3-1, so I can't quite exactly remember what one I was at. However, Stephen Miller, who does the Rangers archives, he posted a footage from one of the Morton games where Rangers won 3-1 and Bobby Russell scores an absolute cracker of a goal. He just sort of dinks it out of the keeper. And in the background is the old centenary stand. So I'm of the opinion, based on this video, that the game I was at was the game in 82, because I am pretty sure when I took my first visit to Ibrox, the Govan stand was there. I don't remember seeing the old centenary stand. So I'm of the opinion that it was 1982 and played Morton and we won 3-1. But I don't quite know what game it was. Right. First game attended has been dealt with. Christine, what was your first cup final?
We'll see before you make me feel even older.
Oh, Christ.
I'm just having a wee look at this programme from 1971, and the price of it was £1. So that's 5p to all you people that don't know what
5p?
a shilling was.
Jesus.
Incredible, isn't it?
And how much would that be today, though?
Oof. Well, it's about £3.50 for a programme, isn't it?
Well, see, what I do sometimes, I've kept a lot of old tickets, right, for like when I was going to games in the 80s and stuff like that. And the entry fee is like £2 and stuff like that. And if you go online, you've got the inflation calculator. So you put in the price based on the year that you bought it, and it tells you what the price would be today. And when I put in the price, when I put in the price for, you know, some of these tickets that I went to games in the 80s, you know, it comes up at like, it's equivalent to like £12 for today. So it shows you that the price of football has risen above the rate of inflation. You know what I mean? And to me, it's to subsidise, you know, the huge salaries that players get these days. But the amount of money I know it's a lot cheaper up here than it is down south, but the amount of money we get charged for football these days, I think, is astronomical. But your first cup final, Christine?
My first cup final was the League Cup final of 1975. We beat Celtic 1-0 and Alec McDonald scored with a diving header.
Yeah. I was speaking to him last night, actually.
Yeah, lovely
Me and Doddy, we go way back we go.
Yep. And we then, obviously, we did the treble that season. So, 76, the Scottish Cup final, we beat Hearts 3-1, I think it was.
Yeah, 3-1. And we scored before 3 o'clock.
That's right. Derek Johnson scored in that one. So, you know, it was a great start to me starting to go and watch Rangers. I got my first season ticket in 1974-75. I actually won it in a competition in the Rangers News. Would you believe?
There you go. Do you know I used to write for the Rangers News, Christine?
I know that. I know.
Did you know that?
Small world, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
It was a competition. It was something to do with, I think it named 4 players, and you had to say which one was from Glasgow. And I wasn't sure. And
was it Alec McDonald?
No, it was Alec O'Hara. Do you remember him?
Right.
Do you remember Alec O'Hara?
I can see his face. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I'm too young to remember him as a player, but I can see his face.
I think he was from Castlemilk.
Well, is Alec McDonald not for Castlemilk?
I don't think he was one of the options, though.
Yeah, see, I'm sure I was speaking to Alec McDonald about this last night. He was definitely for Castlemilk. But it wasn't him. What about yourself, Stuart? What about you? Your first cup final? What was the tournament?
My first cup final was the CIS cup final of 2003, or certainly League Cup final. I can't remember if it was CIS then or Coca-Cola. I'm not very sure, but that was the game where we beat them 2-1. And
Was that when
Hartshorn missed the penalty.
missed the penalty?
An
That's a
injury
good. I
time.
wasn't at that game. That's a
It
good one.
was. I had a good day. It was just me and my wee pal Johnny. We went through it, and he was actually, my wee pal was ill, but we ended up having to walk back into the centre of Glasgow after the game, and I was quite keen to partake in a libation or two. But with him being ill, he wasn't so keen. But the problem we had was we walked through it. I didn't really know Glasgow very well, and they still didn't, to be honest. And we walked through the Queen's Park and back towards the centre of Glasgow, and every single pub seemed to be celebrating St Patrick's Day, which was that weekend. So we were unable to actually get a pint anywhere until we got back into the centre of Glasgow. But that was my first cup final.
Were you walking down Victoria Road?
I've no idea, mate. It was.
Victoria
I just
Road.
remember it was a beautiful sunny day. It was great. Obviously, we just beat Celtic. I think we played really well that day, but Lennon got sent off towards the end, and I think we sort of sat off them a wee bit and tried to hold on to the lead. And obviously, Amruso sort of dived into the back of Hartshorn and gave away the penalty. In fact, I think it was Bobo Baldi, wasn't it? So, and gave away the penalty, and fortunately, the big fat ginger Baldi missed it.
Yeah, I wasn't at that game, but that's a decent cup final, I must admit, to say that was your first. My first cup final was October 1987, Rangers 3, Aberdeen 3, the League Cup final, and we won it in penalties. And I dogged the school, I was 13 at the time, I dogged the school to get tickets. So I dogged the school to go through it, like, I think I got the train at 7 in the morning to Falkirk through to Glasgow to get me and my pal 2 tickets. And on the Sunday, the two of us arrived without a clue how to get to Hampden. I knew how to get to Ibrox, but I didn't have a clue how to get to Hampden. So a sign of the times, I suppose, we jumped in a taxi with 2 complete strangers. Which, when I look back on, I was 13 at the time, was probably the cleverest thing I've ever done in my life. I mean, if my boy came in now at the same age and said, "Oh, I shared a taxi with 2 strange men today," I would be asking questions. So we got the taxi out. It was my first real experience of the terraces, because obviously I was used to sitting down at Ibrox, and when Davy Cooper scored that free kick to make it 1 each, I shat myself. The swaying, the pushing, and when it all settled down, my mate had gone. He was like 70 yards to my left. It was just carnage, absolute carnage. But it was a good day, and I just remember it being really, especially when it went to penalties, it was just so nerve-wracking. I couldn't deal with it at one point. It was getting that bad. But yeah, fond memories of it. Fond memories. Right, sure. Your first Old Firm game. What was that one? Don't say it was a CIS Cup.
No, it wasn't. It was a few years previous to that. Well, 6 years. It was the game we beat Celtic 1-0 in 1997, and it was Richard Gough that scored it. I think it was his first goal back after he'd returned from the USA to try and get us to 10 in a row, which obviously we didn't quite make.
I was in the club deck that day.
Right, well, funny enough, I think it was a club deck I was in. What was it? I didn't make a lot of games when I was younger, because I used to play a lot of football myself, as you know. So at that time, I was on loan. I was playing for Hutchie Vale under 21s, and I think our game got cancelled for some reason. I think our team never turned up, and our manager at the time, he had a season ticket, so he says to me, "Do you want to go through?" And I'm sure it was really quite, like, it was about an hour to kick off, and I absolutely just passed my driving test that year, I think, actually. No, it couldn't have been. Must have been a few years before that. But I remember absolutely flying through to Glasgow and almost getting stopped by the police. There was a police car, Range Rover came up in front of me, and I thought, "Oh, here we go." And at that time, I had a message thing in the back, and it just told me to slow down. So I got away with that. And then I got to Ibrox, and at that time, so late 90s, I hadn't been to very many Rangers game at all. As I say, because I played myself every Saturday, so I didn't really get a chance to go to football. So I thought, where the hell am I going to get parked? So I just headed straight for the stadium, naively thinking I'd get parked right outside. And funnily enough, I did. I got parked right just off the Copland Road, just at the primary school. And I don't know how I managed to get the space. And I got in just before Gough scored, actually, because I think it's quite an early goal. And it worked out quite well. So that was my first Old Firm game.
What about you, Christine? First game against that shower?
My first game was in January 1975. Were you guys born then?
I was just coming up for my
Right.
second birthday.
I was just a glint in my mum and dad's eye.
Aye, get it up, you. These youngins.
No, I mean, bear in mind, Celtic were going for 10 in a row that season.
Right,
And,
right, okay.
We had to stop them, and New Year's Day game.
Was that a 3-0
I think
game?
it was actually the 4th of January, something along those lines. But and we beat them 3-0.
3-0. Aye.
And I think it was Derek Johnston, Tommy McLean, and Derek Parlin.
Parlin, yes.
Who was my
I remember the game
hero
well.
at the time. And what I can remember from it, well, I don't really remember. I mean, I'm lying here because I've just been watching it to remind myself. Was the state of the pitch. It was an absolute mud heap. It really was awful. And but we beat them 3-0, and that went a long way to deciding where the league flag was going that year.
Well, I remember, must have been about 20 odd years ago, Rangers brought out remember when they used to bring out the videos?
Mm-hmm.
And they brought out, it was like greatest Old Firm wins and all the rest of it, and it was essentially John Gregg and Derek Johnson and a couple others sitting in the Argyle house, looking down onto the stadium, chatting about, their favourite Old Firm games. And that game came up, the 3-0 game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny you're talking about the park, because me and my pals, I'd have been about 18 or 19 at the time, right, sitting and watching it. The minute the footage came up, the two of us were like, look at this, look at the state of that park. You know what I mean? It was just like a ploughed field, you know what I mean? And, you think players now wouldn't even consider playing on a surface like that. It just shows you.
No,
I think there's an argument to say they were no more skillful, but they certainly had to deal with more than what the modern day player has to deal with in terms of surfaces and stuff like that. When you hear boys moaning about artificial surfaces, show them a video of that. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is what they used to play on. You know what I mean? There wasn't a bit of grass anywhere. It was just a big pile of mud and divots and all the rest of it. My first Old Firm game was 22nd of March 1986. Rangers 4, Celtic 4, and it was quite an introduction, I must admit. At one point, Rangers were 3-1 down. Celtic were down to 10 men. Who was it that got sent off? Was it McGugan? Can't quite remember. But Celtic were down to 10 men, but they were 3-1 up. Tommy Burns scored just after half time. And I thought, that's it. And I'm sitting there thinking, first Old Firm game's a defeat. And then within 15 minutes, we turned it around. We were 4-3 up. And Murdo McLeod scored an equaliser, an absolute screamer. I think with about 10 minutes to go or something. And see if Rangers had held out that day, technically speaking, Hearts would have won the league. If all the results after that they had followed a similar path, and Hearts would have won the league, because they won it in goal difference. So that goal by Murdo McLeod was more important than it was maybe given credit for at the time. But it was some game for your first Old Firm game. My mate, his first Old Firm game was a 5-1 game, mind the Kevin Drinkle, Mark Walters and all that. So we always used to have a competition. He used to say his was the best for an Old Firm game. And I was like, well, I got 8 goals in mine. I know it was a draw, but 8 goals, can't really go wrong with that.
Actually, that 4-each game, Colin, was one of the ones that I think you came out at the end thinking, do you know what? It probably was deserved. A draw was probably right on the day, even although we obviously desperately wanted to beat them.
It,
but, it's one of these ones that you think can't really argue with
that. What about European games, guys? Frankie, what was your first European fixture?
Rangers 5, Stone Graz 0, which was in September 2000. It was the first European game I went to, so first Champions League game as well. So kept up a good record of good results. It was a great game. I played really well. Should have probably scored more on the night, actually. I think Albert's missed a penalty. That was actually my first season with a season ticket as well, so it worked out quite well that year as well.
That game played around about the time when there was, mind the petrol strikes, there was all that stuff for the petrol.
It might have been. One of my mate, I mentioned him earlier, he used to stay at the other side of Edinburgh. For me, I'm in East Lothian, and I remember having to pick him up and then trying to stop for petrol somewhere, and it ended up having to go way out my road probably through your way somewhere to end up getting petrol. Actually, I ended up going nearly sort of Forth Road Bridge and then along by Bowness. I was sort of trying on the phone to people try to find out where what stations were still open and what still had fuel. So it might have been then. I'm not very sure. You could be right.
I'm pretty sure because
it was a midweek game doing that, so it might have been. But I can't recall it myself. I must admit.
I was on holiday, so I gave my ticket for that game to my mate, and my mate picked me up like 2 or 3 nights. I think the game was on the Wednesday night, and I was flying back on the Thursday or the Friday, and he came to pick me up at the airport, and it was like coming back to a third world. You know what I mean? When he picked me up at Glasgow Airport, we're driving along the motorway, not a car in sight. You know what I mean? There was no one out and about because there was this fuel shortage, because there was blockades in France and all the rest of it. There was all that stuff. I can't quite remember what started it, but I'm pretty sure that game took place around about that time. What about yourself, Christine? First European game?
Well, I remember going to the European Super Cup final between us and Ajax.
So that's a decent game, aye.
They had won the European Cup and we had won the Cup Winners' Cup. And although we were banned for the next season,
that's why UEFA wouldn't officially sanction it.
We were allowed to. I don't know. The game happened anyway, and so I remember seeing Johan Cruyff at Ibrox. It was fabulous. Even although I think we lost
3-1.
I think we lost home and away, to be honest.
Yeah.
I can't actually remember the score.
We got beat 3-1 at Ibrox, and we got beat 3-2 over in Amsterdam.
Well done.
Aye.
I'm impressed. You get Google on.
No, I know these things.
Yeah, well, that would have been my first one, and after that, I think it would be Bohemians.
Oh Jesus!
Bohemians.
No, the game in Dublin.
And then no, I wasn't there. I didn't really go to European away games at that stage. Just couldn't afford it, and but I was at the game at Ibrox, and then I think we played St Etienne after that. That's when we got the bike.
Oh, aye. There's a bit of debate about the bike.
Don't remember.
I'm sure.
What kind of debate?
That some people say it was St Etienne, and other people say actually it wasn't. It was some other French team. I can't remember.
No, it was St Etienne, definitely. Definitely. I don't care.
Okay,
yeah, definitely.
Go with that. My own first European game was Sparta Prague, around about 1991. Stuart McCall scored twice. We'd lost the first leg 1-0, and Stuart McCall scored twice, and we were through with a couple of minutes to go. And Scott Nisbet scored an own goal, and that was that.
Out in away goals.
we were out in away goals, and I just remember being gutted, absolutely gutted. And there must have been about 30 of their fans in the club deck. You could have heard a pin drop and Gorham probably should have got it.
I remember it.
Their boy got to the byline and cut it back, and Nisbet slid in to try and cut it out and sort of diverted it towards goal, and Gorham probably should have got it, and it just sort of squirmed in. So
I don't know whether it came up. It was just something I was thinking about. Whether it came up last night, Colin, at your 1972 thing, but I remember just talking about going out and away goals. Remember the who was it? A Spanish team, Sporting Lisbon, when we played them.
Spanish team, Portuguese team.
Portuguese,
Yeah,
and when we played them in the run.
On the night, finished 6 each.
Yeah, on the night, everybody thought we had gone out.
Yeah, that's right.
And I remember going to my bed crying when I used to get emotional about these things. I remember going to my bed crying, and then my dad telling me the next morning, we're through.
I wouldn't worry about crying, Christine. I go to my bed crying every time I get beat. You know what I mean? 2 weeks ago at that Celtic game, I was in my bed bubbling by tea time, I think. Right, guys, conscious of time, just coming up in the sort of last minute of the show. I'll do a quick, simple one word answer with the next question. Favourite Rangers player, Frankie?
For me, Richard Gough.
A defender.
Aye, probably.
Come here.
No very glamorous, I understand that. I mean,
These goalkeepers aren't right, by the way, honestly, God.
well, it's fair enough. I mean, you think I maybe went for Gorham or Loudrup McCoist. I mean, these guys were all the hero when I was growing up. I was very, very lucky in 9-in-a-row stuff, and guys like Alberts and Gio Van Bronckhorst and things like that. But for me, it was Goff, and I didn't think we've ever properly replaced Goff.
Fair enough. What about yourself, Christine?
David Cooper, without a doubt.
That's two for Cooper then, because I would go with that as well. I would go with David Cooper. I just and it wasn't just he's obviously had a lot of ability and all the rest of it, but I just thought he was a really humble, down to earth guy. I heard that I read a good story a while ago about him. A Rangers fan saying he'd been at a Motherwell Rangers game at Fir Park, and obviously Cooper stayed in Hamilton. So after the game, this Rangers fan, he went to the chippy, and this Rangers fan also stayed in Hamilton. So he was standing at the bus stop waiting on the Hamilton bus for Motherwell. Davy Cooper was standing at the same bus
he
stop.
didn't drive at that time.
No.
I think he learned later on. But
later on, so he was standing at the bus stop waiting on the Hamilton bus with a bag of chips. He'd also been at the same chippy as well, and I just think stuff like that. I must admit, I quite like stuff like that. So that's two for Davy Cooper and one for Richard Goff. We'll see who pops up with the other contributors, who they say their favourite player was. But I think that's probably time to call it, guys. It's conscious we've been on here for an hour now. So that's all from the Gersnet Weekly Podcast this week. A big thanks to Christine and Stuart for their contributions there. We'll be back on here next week. Obviously, the Rangers are back in action next week against Hearts, I believe, on the Saturday. So we'll have a pod out on the Sunday. In the meantime, get yourself on to the Gersnet at www.gersnet.co.uk. Until then, until next week, bye for now.